you so much, Nathan. And thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. I really enjoy talking about AI, and so I'm really excited to share some of this information with you today. So Nathan's already done a great job making me sound really impressive. I'm going to leave it at that and just get into it for what all of you guys are here for. So for today, we're going to talk a little bit about a day in the future, right? What I imagine the future might be with AI as our co-pilots. I'm going to walk you through our journey with generative AI at the Chamber of Commerce. And then I'm going to share with you some of our lessons learned that we're translating into these implementation steps for you to consider. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some quick wins. So maybe these are some things that you guys might consider doing within your organization, or maybe you already have. So we're fast forwarding to 2027. So it's 2027 and you're walking into your Chamber's annual summit. And so this time, maybe things are a little bit different because we are really hyper personalized with our focus. And so the event experience is very different for all of your members. So your AI tools have already analyzed the attendees. They know their personal preferences, and they've already sent tailored event schedules to each participant. So there's no more of that go and log in and choose your schedule and choose the sessions that you want to attend. Of course, the member is always in power and they can do that. But in 2027, we're just taking that burden from them. So we've also got intelligent networking in that the AI-powered app can now match attendees with the right people that they may benefit from a networking perspective. So that makes networking feel almost effortless, but also be meaningful. And there are many people who struggle with networking. It can be quite daunting. We've also got smarter donor targeting in that generative AI can identify who the high potential donors are based on past contributions, engagement history, and also business priorities. I think something's going on with my slides.
Can re-up them real quick? It wasn't progressing along with you.
Let's try that. Sorry about that, guys. Thank you all for paying attention and letting us know. Nathan, do you see, is it progressing? Yeah?
It is now. It is now, yes.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, guys. So as I mentioned, right, we're all about hyper personalization in the year 2027. We're no longer trying to guess about what our members want. We already know, right? Because we've got the data, we've got the AI, and we want to make sure that it is relevant content. So I was just talking about smarter donor targeting, something that most of us struggle with. And so we know about past contributions, we know all about engagement history, and we also know what priorities our member wants. So we want to make sure that we've got on-time prompting so that we can get donations or we can get targeted to our member about what it is that they care about. So imagine that as they're sitting in a session, they get a message on their smartphone that tells them to donate now. And there's a reason why, and it's probably tied to the presentation that they're in watching right now, right? So you know that this is a topic that the member cares about. We also want to make sure that it is frictionless with the payment. So it is a one-tap checkout and done. There's nothing else that you need to do other than enter in the amount. I imagine in the year 2027, there's going to be this focus on not just hyper personalization, but also hyper convenience. We want to make sure that we're really, really easy to do business with and really easy for our members to donate or to purchase services. And it doesn't stop there. After the event, we want to make sure that we are getting schedules and thanking emails, and we can highlight stories that they can see. I'm still seeing some issues with the recording. I don't know if you want me to try something else, Nathan, with the slides.
I think it's fine. I'm not experiencing that. If you are experiencing it.
Oh, okay. So I hope that if some of you don't have the slides, I hope that there is some value for listening along, and then I know that it will be recorded and you can see them afterwards as well. So where we're getting to really is that we know our members so well. We'll make sure that after the event, we're not spamming them and hoping that there's going to be content that sticks. Instead, we're using the information that we've learned about them both going into the summit and also during the summit. So we know what networking connections that they made. We know which connections they actually attended versus those that maybe they declined. And so that we can make sure that we use this information to appeal to their interests as we move forward, thinking about our goals and our strategy for 2020, 28, I guess that would be. And so I know that this might feel a little bit or sound a little bit like it's a futuristic concept, but it really isn't. It's starting to happen now, and it's something that we want to start paying attention to. So I have a question here for those of you who can answer in the chat, which is, do you think that our members, our customers, are going to expect the same level of service from us in 2027 as they did in 2024? Do you think those expectations are going to stay consistent? Yeah, I hear you, Michael. So let's talk about generative AI. I'm going to use the terms AI and generative AI interchangeably during this presentation. But generative AI is just a branch of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been here for a long time. It is not new. But what is new is this ability to generate new and unique content that is generative AI. And so that's text, that's videos, that's images, and we get to use multimodal, right? So you can have conversations with voice and you can text, you can take pictures. So it's really turning out to be something that's transformative in and of itself. But when you think about what's going to be becoming more popular this year, it's going to be agentic AI, right? So generative AI is already powerful, but when you kind of bring that together with agentic AI, we really are going to see some massive transformation happening here. So agentic AI is really more autonomous decision-making actions. So we've had the ability to do workflows and automation. Again, we've been able to do that for years, but it was very deterministic, right? It was rules-based. And so what's different now is that with agentic AI, this technology will be able to make its own decisions on the next logical step to take, right? Imagine that you may interact with an agent as early as even next month and ask a question. And that agent will then send your question out to one or many different agents to go and answer or fulfill your question or request based on what it is that you're asking. So it's almost like having a whole team of employees that are working for you. So we're going to really see these two very powerful technologies start taking hold in this year. So why does this matter? It really matters for all organizations, but it really matters quite particularly for chambers and associations, right, who are focusing on supporting businesses, advocating for industries, and strengthening communities. And unlike large organizations, quite often we operate with fewer resources. We have smaller teams and we have tighter budgets. And so AI can really help us to continue to have impact while still operating with limited resources. It gives us the ability to have greater impact with our mission, increasing revenue along the way. So when I think about some of the challenges that generative AI can help solve, I think about member and donor engagement. It's something that we are always thinking about. How do we make sure that we are retaining our members, that we are engaging our members, that we're bringing them the information that they care about without spamming them, right? It's really a very delicate balance. And so AI-driven emails can help us out in that regard, along with chatbots. They can personalize communication at scale and really make sure that members are getting that hyper-focused content in a way that we couldn't do before. Event management is another area that we often struggle with from a resource perspective because it is very time intensive. Planning the events often take months, trying to secure locations, securing sponsorships, and then just managing registrations requires significant impact and effort from our team. And so now with AI, it can really automate a lot of the event logistics. Even just recently, we're seeing that these tools can handle deep research. So you can give it an action to go off and perhaps find a location for your event. And it can go off and spend the next 5 or 6 minutes and bring back a list of 9, 10, however number event options for you based on the criteria that you've given it, whereas perhaps it might take your team hours to do that in the traditional way that we do today. Fundraising, right? So fundraising and revenue streams are often inconsistent. And so AI tools can help us by analyzing donor data, recommending the ideal funding opportunities. So again, we're not just sending funding opportunities or funding requests to everyone. We're really doing targeted outreach based on what our members are most interested in. AI can also help us with obtaining grants, right? It can help us by automating those grant applications that often take days to pull together. So we're quite often in what I call administrative overload. We have too much to do, right? So we rely on our staff, we rely on our team members and our volunteers to do some of this highly manual and repetitive tasks, like processing applications. And it takes a long time answering routine inquiries, updating databases, or entering information into those dreaded Excel spreadsheets. And then there's manual error, right? Because it doesn't matter how good you are with data entry, it is inevitable that sometimes we're going to make some mistakes because we are human. So now that we have AI-powered chatbots, we have the potential for automated flows, we have the potential for agentic AI and smart CRM systems to really streamline those processes. That means that it can free up your team's time to work on other work that you have across your organization that generate member value. Proving impact is also challenging, right? We have a lot of data. Sometimes we have nothing else except data. But trying to centralize that data, clean that data, and get it into a place where we can actually analyze it and drive decisions is often difficult. It's incredibly time consuming. So with generative AI now, we can surface insights from our data within seconds. We can really start driving towards real-time decision making, and we can do it at scale. Whereas again, before, it would take us months to be able to do something like that. So the bottom line here, you guys are noticing a trend, is AI can really help chambers and associations do so much more with less. Instead of thinking about how do I grow my team, how do I find the resources to grow my staff, you might be able to augment your team with agents, right? Allowing you to save time, but not skip on the impact that you are having with your members. So I'm going to transition a little bit now. I think we can understand that there is a future out there that we're heading towards. Customers, members, they're still people at the end of the day. And we ended up being more impatient. If there's one thing we don't have enough of, it is time. So we're always looking for ways to maximize our time. And with that hyper personalized service, it gives us the ability to get there. We also know that generative AI has a tremendous amount of potential to help really jump in and optimize some of our processes and some of our experiences that allow us to create member value and increase impact. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what our journey has been at the Chamber of Commerce with implementing and scaling generative AI. And I'm also going to share some of the lessons that we've learned along the way. So we were really lured in by what seemed possible, right? You guys have all seen some of those really impressive demos of what AI can do. And we really thought that it was going to create program code, it was going to automate email responses, analyze all of our policy documents. I mean, I thought it was pretty much going to automate everything because the demos were so compelling. They looked really great. But it didn't really turn out that way. So I'm going to take you on this journey of, we got started with ChatGPT 3.5 around December 2022. Now, we're very lucky at the Chamber because we have a fantastic, supportive executive leadership team that understands the tremendous potential of AI. And so we jumped in early, much before any other organizations really were starting to try it out. So our first experience with ChatGPT was fun more than it was anything that was useful. So it was kind of cool to play around with. It could generate some cool things like content, emails, poems, but there was no data privacy and there were too many hallucinations. And by hallucinations, I mean that it was wrong. The tool flat out lied. We could not rely on any of the responses that we were getting from the first iteration of ChatGPT. So as much as it was fun and as much as we believed in the transformation, our effort number one was not a success. And so a few months later, we were able to get OpenAI through Azure. So this was great. We were able to take care of our need for privacy. Data privacy is like our number one objective, right? We want to make sure that we're always, our data is private, our information is secure. So we had a trusted partner with Azure. That was great. Check one of the boxes. We also, though, ran into a couple of challenges. One, the technology still just wasn't very good. It was fun, but it wasn't accurate. There were still too many hallucinations. We couldn't rely on it from an organizational standpoint. We also realized that because this technology was so new, our teams did not have the skill set, right? I don't know if any of you have heard about LangChain. It's very technical. It's a whole new coding for prompt engineering that our team had to get exposure to and start learning. And it was just one of a new skill set that we had to learn. So that wasn't successful either. We moved on to iteration number 3. So iteration number 3, we started to engage with some third-party partners. We had people who were coming to us and they said that they would be able to help us in our journey to implement ChatGPT. But after exploring deeper with them, with conversations and what it was that we needed from a business perspective, we also realized that they just weren't ready either. The truth is that this technology was so new, no one had done it successfully yet. So even though we had moved on to ChatGPT 3.5, which was a little bit better than 3.0, we still just weren't ready to have success. Until a new technology came out that allowed us to put basically the LLM on top of our own proprietary data. So we realized through iterations 1, 2, and 3 that where this technology would really be useful for us was if we didn't want to just use common information that was a year old. We wanted to be able to surface insights and intelligence from our own proprietary data. So when this new technology was implemented, it's called retrieval augmented generation, which really just means the ChatGPT sits on top of your data. We also had ChatGPT 4 come out, which was much more improved than the prior models. So now we were getting success. We had improved reliability, and we were able to have data security. We've got data privacy. We're operating within an environment that was secure. So this is where we really started to see the ability to scale. Even though our first 3 iterations were not necessarily a success, I also couldn't call them failures because we learned so much along the way. We learned through trial and error, and our team was upskilling, right? So where we are today is what I call a repeatable framework. We've got data privacy. We've also spent a tremendous amount of time on data readiness. In order to implement solutions at scale, your data has to be ready. It's got to be accessible. It's got to be clean. The system has to know how to understand it. And we're starting to really see some return on our investment. So where are we now? We have several solutions in production and others that we are developing, and we're continuing to develop. We're seeing that this is saving time across our organization for our team members and allowing them to generate additional member value. So we've implemented a tool that we call Chamber Chat. Chamber Chat has turned out to be sort of our one-stop shop for if you want to go and generate content that's on Chamber tone and Chamber brand. Chamber Chat knows a wealth of information about the Chamber of Commerce. And we keep it up to date because every day we pull in information from our website. So our website, if you haven't been there, please go there. It's incredibly impressive, uschamber.com. We've got so many articles and research that we publish that we wanted to make sure that we're bringing all of that information into Chamber Chat so that our team has up-to-date information every day. So every morning, we bring that information in. So Chamber Chat is like our centralized brain or our expert about the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And it's accessible for all of our team members. We also have a project that we call EVA. So EVA is our employee virtual agent. And the notion here is that when we're onboarding new employees, we have a number of frequently asked questions, as I'm sure most of you do. And so we want to be able to alleviate some of our teams from keeping asking those same questions. So we developed EVA. We also have a tool. It's actually, this is agentic AI within what I'm calling this legal risk tool that brings in data from a number of different places, internal and external, and it determines risks in certain areas of pending litigation. Those are definitely areas of interest for our members. So we can surface reports and information and display that for our members so that they can then make decisions. We're a Salesforce organization. We love Salesforce. And so Salesforce is fantastic. But again, we've got so much information. We wanted to be able to surface information in a way that was more convenient for our staff members. So we have a tool that's called Salesforce Chat that not only helps our team to answer questions about members or contacts or leads that are within our Salesforce system, but it also gives them answers on how to do things in Salesforce. Maybe you want to create an opportunity. Maybe you want to send an email or schedule a meeting. It will explain how to do those things also. I mentioned earlier that we can also think about AI as a time-saving tool for writing grants. oftentimes as nonprofit associations, we do spend a fair amount of time both researching grants and then responding to grants. So it used to take us almost 40 hours to put together a grant response. Sometimes that was just due to, handing off responses from one person to another person. Sometimes there are delays if people are out. Well, with this new project, we were able to take that process down to about 3 minutes. So this was a huge success. We went from almost 40 hours to 3 minutes. Now, of course, that's just generating the initial output. As with all AI responses, we always have to review it, make sure it's accurate, and put that human touch on it. And then we also have some third-party solutions because we recognize that we want to make sure that technology is an enabler for our team and that we're enabling our staff to be able to be as successful as possible and always being able to focus on our members. And so we have third-party tools like Microsoft's Bing Copilot, and we also have a tool that's called Jasper. So sometimes the question is, yeah, you've got all these things, but is it useful? We're hearing yes, we're seeing yes. We have over 30,000 chat interactions just within our chamber chat alone over the last 3 months. We're hearing from our team members that they're saving hours in their day, which is freeing their time to work on other higher value tasks. I also hear things like, wow, I didn't realize it was so good. So those are really rewarding feedback, and it's also letting us know that this is the right technology for us to continue to invest in and continue to experiment with. So I mentioned we talk a little bit about lessons learned, right? So as you saw, we've been at this now for about 2 years, which is as long as anyone else has, because this is all new. And so we've learned a few things along the way. I've put these into 7 steps. I don't necessarily think that they're sequential, right? You might choose to do them in an order that makes sense to you. But these are some of the things that I think that you should think about if you are implementing or scaling generative AI within your organization. So the first one is identifying your pain points. So AI really shines when it comes to solving repetitive, time-consuming problems. So repeatedly responding to the same inquiries is a good one. It's not necessarily the best use of your time or your team's time, but nonetheless, those inquiries need to be responded to. Spending hours creating emails and newsletters, again, often very valuable activities, but quite repetitive and might be a pain point for your organization. Maybe you're manually still tracking memberships, renewals, event signups, or other data. Remember those Excel spreadsheets that we talked about that are prone to manual error? Well, those could be a pain point. Increasing revenue or increasing members. That could be either a pain point or a goal. So identify the pain point first before you think about, is AI something that I want to implement? Tie AI to your business goals, right? I know it's really enticing to want to just implement AI because it's cool. It's that shiny new thing. But I would suggest that you not do that. And instead, you make sure that you understand, why are you implementing AI, right? What is the business problem that you're trying to solve? So if you were to think about pain points, or you think about tasks, I'm curious, is there one task that you just wish you never had to do again? Let us know in the chat. So next, if you've taken a look at your pain points, I would say now it's time to think about what's the tool, right? If any of you are following AI, almost every week, I feel like there's another 5 tools that are out there. Sometimes I have to stop myself from going down the rabbit hole and exploring all these new tools because, again, they're cool. But remember, cool is not the reason why you go and explore tools. you start with your business pain point. You tie it to your organizational goals first. So when you're thinking about the right tools, I think about making sure that it is fit for purpose. And what I mean by that is when you've identified your pain point and you know what that task is that you want to do, choose a tool that answers that purpose, right? You'll want to make sure that it is budget friendly. We all have budgets. I have never met an organization that said, no, don't worry, money is no option, right? So we want to make sure that it's also very user friendly. Remember, I talked about my team, and early on, we needed all of these technical skills in the early days of ChatGPT, and we just didn't know LangChain, right? Now, generative AI has improved so much. There's a tremendous amount of low-code, no-code solutions that you might not necessarily even have to worry about coding. So think about tools that are user-friendly if you have a smaller organization and a smaller tech team. You might not have a whole team of data engineers, AI engineers, or software developers. So user-friendly is important. You also want to make sure it always has to be security-friendly, right? How are they using your data? How are they safeguarding your data? Making sure that they are not using your organization's proprietary data to train their models. So do your due diligence and choose the right tools, not just those nice, shiny objects. Another thing that we learned is start small and scale gradually. Sometimes we want to just think that this new technology is magic and it can do anything. And while it is pretty impressive, it cannot do everything. And if you start out trying to boil the ocean, chances are you won't be successful. So even though it is tempting to try and take on a really lofty project, I would suggest that you start small and you allow yourself and your teams to really generate that muscle, to start understanding how this technology works and what it is that you need to have in place so that you're ready to scale, right? Implementing and scaling or growing are two different things. Sometimes it's really easy to just implement something, but then when you have to optimize and operationalize it, it's something completely different. So some of the things that you might do when I think about small pilot projects is potentially automating email responses. We talked earlier about perhaps you might automate writing grants, at least coming up with the first draft of that grant response document. Something else you might want to do is create a chatbot, but create a chatbot that's for your internal team members only. There's a lot less risk there, right? And then you might want to do a chatbot that's external, maybe it's on your website, but you don't have to have it know about everything about your organization. If you wanted to, you could just do a chatbot that just knows about a smaller subset of organization information. It's really important to get your team on board, guys, because otherwise this is just technology. And technology by itself is not successful. You always need your team. You always need the human element. So try to make sure that you are providing a space to train your team. Training is important. You want to think about perhaps having a group of AI champions. So maybe this is a team of people. It could be 3 people or 2 people who really have started to lean in early. And we call those champions because they are people who can start telling others within your organization how great this technology is. They can share examples on how to use it. And they're a great way to increase adoption. We do something that I think is pretty impressive here at Chamber. Every year we have a hackathon. So a hackathon can be small or it can be large, but we bring together cross-functional teams and they are tasked with using technology to solve a business problem. They have 2 days. They have never worked together before, so it's really fun. They come up with a business problem, and then they can use technology to solve it. Oftentimes that's AI, but it doesn't have to be AI. So that's one way to also think about how can you get your team more willing to adopt AI, to not be intimidated by AI, so that your projects can be successful. Also keep in mind that it might make sense to have AI guidelines. So making sure that your team understands what's acceptable for your organization. Can they use any tool, or is it only some tools that you would prefer they use? The other item is remembering that you're really here for member impact and for mission impact. So you want to focus on the projects that are going to have the largest impact on your members over time. So we talked about hyper-personalization, data-driven decisions, member retention, and increasing member value. So AI isn't just about efficiency. It isn't just about that shiny new object. Let's really tie it to something that's going to matter. One of the ways that you can identify, what do I get started with, right? What project makes the most sense? You could do something like this, which is just an impact feasibility matrix, right? So you look at what's the level of impact for this project, and then what is the feasibility of implementation. And so here we might determine that, hey, a chatbot is something that has high impact, and it's something that we could move forward and implement. The other area is making sure that you are measuring the performance of your pilot project and you're adjusting along the way. So as you are bringing together your team to determine what's the project that I want to work on, I always suggest like a cross-functional team, right? People who are bringing different perspectives. And then think about what will be the items we want to measure. How will we know if this project was a success? And then regularly review the results and be ready to tweak. One of the things that we've learned is that we are constantly tweaking and adjusting. We're constantly learning new things, and we're going back and we are adjusting. So having that mindset of just continuous improvement has been valuable, at least for me. This is a good one. So I do mention that it's important that you remain curious and just evolve, right? This isn't just a one-time implementation. The technology is changing so incredibly quickly. It really is an ongoing journey. So, follow newsletters, attend events, attend summits, learn from others. Webinars like this are really useful for you to understand perhaps how others are implementing this technology. The most important thing, I think, is just to be curious and know that you have to take a little bit of risk because there's so much that's still unknown here, but it can be a calculated risk that you feel comfortable with. So I'm just curious again in the chat, what are the top 2 things that you think might be holding you back from either implementing or scaling generative AI in your organization? Is it like budget? Is it resources? Is it that you just don't believe that it's even a thing? Do you think it's a fad? Is it data security concerns or just something else, right? It's not on your list of priorities just yet. You don't have enough time to do what you need to do. I just saw a comment in the chat, which is also a big reason why we can see low levels of adoption, and that is fear. There's a lot of fear around this new technology, and that's why it's important that you have a focus on your team members, you have a focus on that human aspect, you have a focus on training and helping team members to understand what does this technology mean for them in their roles and for your organization. So I'm going to look at a couple of quick hits now, right? So what are some of the things that we can do with generative AI? I'm going to stop sharing here for a moment, and I'm going to bring us over to a different screen. So imagine that, again, we're in the future. This might be what a website looks like. And so let's have a listen. Nathan, if you can give me a thumbs up or let me know if you can hear, I would appreciate it.
I cannot hear.
Can you hear now? Can you hear now,
I
Nathan?
cannot. No, I
Oh,
cannot.
can anyone else hear? Anyone in the chat? Oh, okay. So apologize that you cannot hear that. What this is really, though, is this is a virtual avatar. It's something that gives you an opportunity to be a little bit more dynamic with your websites. You can also create an avatar that is interactive, so your visitors to your websites can ask questions and get answers from your avatar. So this is a website and it's fantastic, right? We all have beautiful websites and they are chock full of really, really useful, important information. You can see here we've got membership offerings, we've got a bunch of stuff here. Awesome. The thing is, there's so much information that we make it sometimes a little bit challenging for our members or our prospective members to find it, especially if you've got multiple tabs. Your website, you can just keep scrolling and scrolling because there's so much great information to surface. But what if you just had your AI assistant at your website where you could click on this assistant and you are now brought to your chat? So here's an example of an AI assistant that can be embedded into your website with really very little effort. So you'll notice that I've included some pre-prompts here. Now this chat is based on the website that I mentioned to you. So I can either ask the chat any question that I want to, or I can use one of these pre-built ones here. I'm going to use a pre-built one that says, tell me about membership benefits. Now, remember, if this wasn't here, more than likely you are either getting a phone call or you're getting an email that you have to start answering these repetitive questions. And even though you may have FAQs on your website, sometimes it's buried and it's really hard to find. And just because we're doing a live demo, it's hanging, but that's technology for you. Let me try this. We'll give it another chance and then we'll abandon it. Okay, so here we go. So it was being temperamental. Tell me about membership benefits. So here you can see it's giving me the different tiers of benefits. It's telling me how much the membership is. And it's also asking me at the bottom, do you want more details or on a specific membership, or do you want to know how to join? So I might say yes. Tell me about student membership. And we'll hope that it doesn't take as long to answer as it did a moment ago. I might be having some internet slowness here, but that came back pretty quickly. So what it's done is it's told me specifically about the student membership. It's telling me how it's breaking down, what my cost is, and then it's also asking me, do I want any help signing up or learning about available courses? I'm not going to worry about that. I think that this pretty much lets you know this is some of the things that you could do. I could ask here, when is the annual summit? Let me ask that and see what it says. You guys get the idea though, right? It's a chat bot. It's told me this is when the summit is. October 15th and 16th, 2025 in San Francisco. Let me know if you need more details. Great. This might not be the most impressive chat that you've ever seen. It's something that I put together in about 7 minutes. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So that's where we can think about our website going, right? Our websites are beautiful. They have a ton of information, and that's really great. They might not necessarily be the easiest, though, for our members and our prospective members to get information from. So let me walk you through what that looks like as far as how do you create a chat for your organization, right? So this is ChatGPT that I was using right there, but you can really use, sorry guys, while I scroll through my slides here, you can use whichever chat tool that you would like. In this demo, I use ChatGPT. So for you to be able to create your own custom GPT, you have to pay for either the Plus or the Teams version. If you get the Plus version, I think it's about $20 a month. So it's not going to break the bank. So when you've logged in, you've created an account, you have to create an account, you have to pay for your subscription, and then you'll see an option to create GPTs. Nathan, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And so you'll click on Create GPTs, and then you're going to be presented with a window. This technology is just so good, guys. It's already gotten better than it was even 3 months ago. So 3 months ago, you had to manually configure the GPTs yourself. Well, now that they're using more agentic AI, you just have to describe in the chatbot what you want your role to be. And if you just want to play with this, you can just add in the URL to your chamber website or to any website that you want this chatbot to be able to ask questions about. You can also add in documents. So there's an option here to upload files. You can add conversation starters, which is where I had those pre-built questions. The only thing that you really have to do on this page, though, once you've done that prompt on the prior page, is give your GPT a name. Anything else that you fill in here is just additional and will increase the performance of your ChatGPT. So under instructions, this is where you can, if you want it to follow a specific tone of voice, if you want it to always ask for the member's name and address the member by name, you can do all of that customization here. What I really want you to walk away with is this literally takes 5 minutes. There's no reason to feel intimidated by any of this stuff. Some of these capabilities at the bottom under configuration, these are all optional. You can turn them on or off. Web search, you can turn that off, right? If you turn it off, it means that the quality of your responses are probably higher because now it's only going to answer based on the information you've uploaded. You can let it generate images if you want or choose not to. It's already up to you. Once you've done that, you then just click create, and then you choose how do you want to share the GPT, right? Because maybe you don't want anyone within the GPT store to have access to your GPT. Maybe you've created a personal assistant like what I have. I have about, I don't know, 27 role-specific GPTs. Or you might want to say anyone with the link. So if you're working in a team, you might want to share this link with anyone. Or you can just have it private just to yourself. Once you've done that and you click save, that's it. It's done. You're ready to go. 5 minutes or less. So as you walk away from here now, right, you might think about, well, what are some of the tools, if I wanted to get started today, what might I use? You don't have to use these, but if you wanted to, this is where I would suggest you start playing think about getting ChatGPT Plus, or better yet, ChatGPT for Teams. ChatGPT for Teams means that maybe you guys are on the same team. Let's just say you work in the HR department or the membership onboarding department. You can create a very specific custom GPT and just share it within your very small group if you like. It's about $25 a month, and there's a minimum requirement of 2 licenses, I believe. And so you can do, it's got internet access, so you can do the deep internet researching that I mentioned. This technology has come so far in 2 years that the level of accuracy is already high without you having to do anything. So it's now doing reasoning models, which means that you don't have to do the elaborate prompting anymore. You can ask very simple prompts within these tools and get back quality responses. A feature that I really am enjoying right now is that you can schedule tasks. So if at the end of the, if at 5 o'clock every day, you want to ask your GPT to go and do research and get the latest news about a certain topic and send it to you in an email, it can do that. You can also consider using Microsoft's Copilot, their Pro version. It's got internet access. It sits on top of ChatGPT models. Again, it's got your data privacy. When you're paying for these licenses, it also means that it's not training on your data. Any of these tools, before you use them and when you use them, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those personalized settings and making sure that you are checking any boxes that you're comfortable with and unchecking those that you are not. Google Gemini also has a fantastic tool that you can consider using. So those are your takeaways, right? There are 7 steps. They are not sequential. Keep these in mind as you're going through thinking about implementing or scaling. Try and tie the technology to your pain points so that you're making sure that you're driving member impact. I want to make sure that I'm reserving just a couple of minutes for questions and answers, but I'm going to leave you with this very short video here. I don't even know if you're going to be able to hear the sound. Nathan will let me know.
I can hear the sound.
Thank you. And there we are, guys, right? It is inevitable. Things are going to change. I want to thank you for spending some of your afternoon with us. I know you have lots of different options. There is a never-ending list of things to do. So thank you. I'm including the my LinkedIn here. If anyone has any interest, feel free to connect. Do not connect unless you just want to hear about all things to do with AI, because I love this topic.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Turley, for helping us out here today. Ryan, yes, there will be a recording of the webinar that you can rewatch, and it'll be available towards the end of the week. We did have a couple of questions come up during the program, and one of them is, how are you recommending analyzing donor data safely without compromising personal information?
Yeah, I think what I would suggest is making sure that you're paying for your licenses. Don't ever use the free versions, because with free, you're always giving up something. So if it is within your budget, I would suggest that you get either one of the subscriptions. The Teams subscription, I think, is tremendous value at $25 per license, and with the minimum of 2.
And then what tool do you recommend for grant applications specifically?
Yeah, I think it's either tool. So from my perspective, you choose a tool that you're most comfortable with, right? So if you've got like Google Workspaces, you might find that you really like Google Gemini. And so Google Gemini has something called Google Gems, which are nothing more than customized GPTs. And so you can create any GPT using Copilot, Gemini, ChatGPT, and others. I really like ChatGPT. I also like Google Gemini, but there's a number of different tools out there that they all pretty much do the same thing. So choose one that you're very comfortable with about how it is safeguarding your data, and that it's easy for you to use so that you can build these things yourselves and not have to, go and get like a 7-person tech team. So maybe start out with ChatGPT.
And then I don't know if you've had any experience with Chamber Master or Growth Zone. If you can add a layer of ChatGPT, we at the Chamber use Salesforce, so we're working on like a Salesforce chat to add some AI incorporation into our Salesforce data. So I think that one would be better connected through someone, an organization that uses Chamber Master more. And then how do you use AI effectively and for the benefit of our members and community while remaining ethical and authentic to who we are? What is our AI ethics statement for staff?
Yeah, and I think that's individual for you, right? Because one thing is ethics isn't really a universal term. So I think that you have to determine what your guidelines are and share them with the team. Be careful about if you're using AI for, really important decision making. That's where I think you have to be a little bit more careful to make sure you've got those guardrails, that you've got AI that is not a black hole, which means it's transparent, right? So using AI ethically is important. We train our team members on ethical and responsible use of these tools. And again, I would just be very careful before you're making really like critical decisions with the tools.
And then any recommendations for incorporating AI practices into managing chamber foundations?
I don't know that they're any different because our grant application tool that I mentioned, that's something that we did build in partnership with our Chamber Foundation. And our Chamber Foundation, we still have Chamber Chat, we have a Foundation Chat. I think that at the end of the day, we're still a business. And so some of the same pain points that we have are transferable to foundations as well.
All right. Well, I am going to, yes, the slide deck will be added to the website whenever we post the recording, and that will be up by the end of, or towards the end of the week. So I'm going to go ahead and we're at the top of the hour. So I'm going to go ahead and say, thank you, Dr. Denise, for helping us out here today, educating us a little bit. I posted the link to the article that's also tying into this webinar as well. And the webinar will be posted to the webinars or our resource page at Institute. And then we are a CAE and CCE approved provider, so you can reach out for credit for that to iom@uschamber.com. Those certificates will be sent out by towards the end of the week. But thank you again, everyone, for coming, and have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Nathan.